Hey, beauties. Good evening to you. Oftentimes we would hear this saying that, men are from Mars. We may not say it that way, and women are from Venus. And with that reality, they say that men tend to be more logical, women illogical, because women use emotions too much, in their arguments, in their argument presentation. And when I talk about arguments, when we hear the word arguments, people assume that the word arguments means a combative encounter, verbal combative encounter. Not necessarily. It can be a sweet banter, it can just be a regular one-on-one conversation with somebody. That is why it is important that we check the meaning of words. We just grow up hearing people use certain terminologies or certain words, perhaps consistently the negative connotation. When it is now used in the way it ought to be used, we assume, oh, it's incorrect. No, the English language is so wide, it is so varied, but we have to get the origin, we have to get the etymology, the real foundation of what the word means. So when I say let us have an argument, I'm not talking about something negative necessarily. I can be simply talking about let us have a conversation, an intelligent, using what we call emotional intelligence, somewhat of IQ intelligence in the verbal banter that we're about to have, the beautiful, sweet banter. And banter is something positive, by the way, my beautiful people. But let me get back to this whole thing about men are logical, women are illogical, because they tend to argue from emotions. All right. In psychology, they talk about, you have various perspectives. They talk about the 5 basic emotions: anger, sadness, fear, joy, excitement. Sadness. I forgot to mention sadness. Joy and excitement probably can be pooled as one. And then you have sadness. So you have many other, like trust and calmness, serenity, emotional intelligence and all of this. All of that has to do with your emotions. Remember, your soul is your driving force of why you do what you do, and the consistency of what it is that you do and say. Now, the 3 composites of your soul is the mind, the will, and the emotions. Heard that word, emotions. It therefore means it is a fallacy, it is folly, it is a farce to say that men, because they are logical, they don't use emotions. If they don't use emotions, it means they're dead. It means that they are dead. They are dead. They're inanimate. They're like a chair. Emotions must be involved. It is now the controlling of the emotions where the problem or the resolution lies. What they may say is that men tend to look more on facts. Women, because of that sixth sense that is inbuilt in us, sometimes we will go on a gut feeling as opposed to not necessarily getting all the facts to get all the facts together. It doesn't mean that the gut feeling is wrong. They've often said that women have a sixth sense. They will pick up on something. For example, they can be around somebody, can just, as a person comes around, they feel the negative energy or they feel that positive energy oozing from the person, whether you're a Christian or not. There are people that you just come around. You could be in the supermarket, you could be in the store, you could be in the pharmacy, it could be somewhere, at an event, and somebody comes in your presence, and right away you say, the eyes, when the eyes connect, because the eyes are the windows of the soul. So when you look, you say, there's something with this person that just seems off. I'm not talking about when Jamaicans use this saying that, "My spirit will take you." Rubbish. Nonsense. I know what they're saying, and it needs to be appropriated the right way. It needs to be properly put together. It is not a good thing to run with, because sometimes what the enemy can do is that he knows that that's a good and a decent person, and what he wants to do is for you to feel uncomfortable so that that person no longer, or you don't see that person as a destiny helper to you in one form or another. So he can make that person seem like a wicked or an evil or a not good person, when in fact that person should be your best friend, so to speak. So we have to be very careful of that. But by and large, women are able to pick up. They have a sixth sense. I'm not talking about somebody who is mischievous or a mischief-making person. I'm talking about something that God has just inbuilt in women, and that is why I call it that women are emotionally strong. We're tough. We can take the mental, arduous, tragedies of life, so to speak, much better than men. And it is indicative of the, like the War 21s and the Bellevue hospitals and so on across the globe, or representations of like the Bellevue hospitals and the War 21s, where you find more insane, not mentally off men than women. So the problem lies in the control, the resolution, or the lack thereof in how we use that component of the soul, which is the emotions, in a logical, sequential where we use more facts as opposed to fallacy, as opposed to just, oh, I feel this and I feel that, without backing it up by facts. Don't get me wrong, a part of the critical thinking skills incorporates discernment and gut feeling, but it has to be backed by facts. It has to be backed by observations, not just a gut feeling. And that is where we have that dichotomy where men will, seem to cap or to cop the prize in terms of logical. That is why women say, imagine I'm telling the man this and he can never see what I'm saying, because men, how they're wired, how they're, I think it's innate. Sometimes I don't even think it's how they're trained. I think it's just innate. How they're wired, they use more I think it's the left or the right side of the brain, while the women use the left, the more creative side. They use the right side of the brain, which speaks to more logic. Hence, you remember doubting Thomas? Until I see the touch the nail scarred hands, I will not believe that he rose from the dead. So he had to see it for himself. So men are wired more on facts, seeing the facts clear. It must be there. It is good sometimes, because what will happen is that it will eliminate them making a false judgment, especially as it regards the character of a human being. It will make them eliminate in some sense. However, without the sort of intuition that the women tend to have, it can make them become the man who built his house upon the sand. He was foolish. Let me give an example. Samson was a perfect example. Because Delilah was able to mask her true character, her true nature, he was not able to see it, because there was no discerning of spirit. There was no intuition that says something is off with this woman. No matter how she presented herself, even though it was covert, it really was overt. She kept pressuring him to give her the secret of his strength. Why would she need it? Why would that be so significant and important to her? And he never looked at it that way. She kept at him, even though he tricked her and told her this, he told her that. She tied up his hands, she did that, and he just never saw through her trickery, her duping him. So, beautiful people, let me let you know, men, even though you are dubbed as the more logical of the two, meaning, of women, it doesn't mean that you don't use emotion. So we need to stop this fallacy, this folly, that men don't use emotions. If you don't use emotions, it means that you're dead. It means that you're mindless, because your soul is a composite of the mind, the will, and the emotions. Emotions have, as I said, psychology, they have a plethora of feelings. It means you're not a human being, and it means that you're not even a living being, because down to the very lower forms of animals have feelings. Notice if you are harsh with a dog, they will, their tail goes in between their, leg area, and their head goes down, and they start to make the squealing puppy sound. So, it is not devoid of emotions. It's a fallacy. It is a folly. It is how the emotions are used. If it is under control and it is gearing towards resolution, as opposed to, oh, I feel this way, as opposed to destruction. But your logical side is not devoid of emotions. Just as how the creative side that the women tend to use more is not devoid of emotions. It's that we tap into what they call a little bit too emotional state, where the feelings may override facts sometimes for women. Guys, follow me on TikTok, subscribe to my YouTube channel, share this message.